engage. Warp Factor 9. All right. So as you can tell, there's a little Star Trek theme there, and it's really fitting because we're doing the study in Deborah today, and as you go through the study, as we're going through this, you're going to be able to see some of the similarities, and or at least I'm going to do it like that. Okay, so I'm a big Star Trek fan. If you haven't noticed yet, anyhow, we're gonna jump right into this, and we're gonna jump to warp and go right to Deborah. All right. So her name comes from the Hebrew name Deborah, meaning bee, B-E-E. Okay. And as I was studying about Deborah, really, until I started write my book, I never really focused too much on her. But as I started studying about her, I realized she was kind of like a queen bee. People would come to her for judgment. And so as you go along, you're going to kind of figure that out as well. And I hope you do a more intense study of her. But as you know, these videos are just to kind of grab your attention and think, well, maybe I should go a little deeper into this. And so that's what I'm hoping you'll do. She was married to Lapidoth, her husband, but the thing is there's not a whole lot that talks about him. And so that's the reason why you won't see him in my book, because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about there. And so the best I could find is she lived from 1107 BC to about 1067 BC. So who was she? Well, she was a very influential woman in the Bible. She was known for her wisdom. She was a prophet and a judge. By the way, she was the only woman judge. Okay, and the judge in the Hebrew is shofet, and which means deliverer. Okay, so this wasn't the type of judging that we do to each other. But it was more for deliverance, okay? And so let's just go ahead and jump into this in Judges 4 through 5. It says, "Now Deborah, a prophetess, and the wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel at that time." Verse 5, "She used to sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the people of Israel came up to her for judgment." Okay, all right. So as a warrior, and when I think of warrior, this is what I think of. I think of a Klingon warrior. Okay, now if you don't know what this is the Klingon batleth. It was a sword. Okay, and it's called a batleth. All right, and so when I think of warrior, this is what I think of. And we're going to get more to that in a minute. All right, so verse 14, and we're going to read through 16. It says, "And Deborah said to Barak, 'Up, for this is the day in which the Lord has given Sisera into your hand. Does not the Lord go out before you?' So Barak went down from the Mount Terborn with 10,000 men following him." Verse 15, "And the Lord routed Sisera and all of his chariots and all of his army before Barak by the edge of the sword." Okay, do you think the sword looked much like this? Nah, this is a Klingon sword. Okay. "And Sisera got down from his chariot and fled away on foot." Verse 16, "And Barak pursued the chariots and the army of Hirosheth Hagoyah, and all the army of the Sisera fell by the edge of the sword, and not a man was left." All right? That's a warrior. All right, what else was she? She was a poet and a singer as well as a songwriter. So if you go to Judges 5:1, it says, "Then sang Deborah and Barak the song of Abinoam, on that day. Okay? What this really reminds me of as I was reading it, when you go to verse 2 through 31 of chapter 5, it is a song of victory. Just like the Klingons would sing on Star Trek after they had a major victory. And in fact, they would write a song, and that song would be sung for many generations. And that song would remind the generations of that certain victory. Okay? And so this is how their song went. And this is not the kind of song that you would sing that rhymes, or you could really put a lot of music to. But this is how it went. And the first part, in verse 2, it says, that the leaders took okay, let me rephrase. That the leaders took the lead in Israel. That the people offered themselves willingly. Bless the Lord. So, first they gave thanks to God. All right? Second, Deborah describes the distressed state of Israel under the tyranny of Jabin. And that's verses 6 through 11. You can go ahead and read that for yourself. The third thing that happened is Deborah stirs up herself and Barak to celebrate this victory in the most solemn manner to the glory of God and the honor of Israel, for the engagement of their friends and the greater confusion of their enemies. If you go to verse 12 through 23, that's what that part of the song is singing about. And the last part, Deborah here concludes this triumphant song from verses 24 through 30, and then in 31 it says there was 40 years of peace. Okay? So it really reminded me of that, because for generations they will sing that song in victory of that victory. And so let's go into some more history. There was only one person in the Bible that was a prophet, or one other person in the Bible that was a prophet and a judge at the same time, and that was Samuel. She judged and led Israel for 20 years in the 12th century BC. When you read the book of Judges, you'll see that people were falling away and coming back and to God, and there was a repenting. And as you read the Old Testament, we see that. Okay, people would fall away, and then God would send a prophet or a judge or something to get the people back on track. And as I look at our history today, this country, just 40, 50 years ago, we were actually would have been considered a Christian nation, and today we're so vile, and we're full of hate. And in fact, I got rid of Facebook because it is so full of hate, and not even to just look at all the immorality that is going around right now. I'm just talking about the hate that's in our world, and it is just spread rapidly. And something's going to happen that's going to bring us back around, or the Lord's going to come. One of the two is going to happen. For 20 years, she dealt with the war with the Canaanites, and then there was peace for 40 years. After, and we read about that in Judges 5:31. When I was reading about her being judged, I didn't get the feeling that she was disrespected in any ways. Because, think about it. In the Old Testament, women weren't as respected as men were. In fact, all the way up when Jesus arose from the grave, and the women saw him first, and they ran ahead and said, "Jesus is alive. We saw him." Well, they didn't believe them because they were women. Okay, and for Deborah to be respected in the Old Testament like that was pretty amazing. You can really tell that God had his hand on her and gave her the power. I mean, she was like Shira, a warrior. I mean, she was not, from what I've read, you wouldn't think she was a weak person at all. She had the respect of the Israelites, okay? And being a warrior and a songwriter and a judge and a prophet, I mean, it was like this perfect package, just in one perfect situation. And she did a great job, and so, hey, you know what I'd like you to do is to continue to do studying and continue to dig deep in this, because I'm just really scratching the surface here. And so I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and continue studying. And when my book is released, which is supposed to be released here in the next couple of weeks, definitely get a copy for yourself. And I can actually mail them from here for $14, or you can go onto Amazon and get it. And so and follow along, okay? So other than that, tlaplah. That's not a Hebrew word. That's a Klingon word, and it means, I hope we meet again in the near future. Live long and prosper.